Yes, maybe you did. And the from is not very clear from the message. You can't make out if the email is from that bank. But anyway, account ending with 669.
Only in the case if you have stored this.
Yes, yes, it's from your address book, right? But you can always, obviously, you can always go check what email that is. Very good instructions here. Also, the URL that they give is not a clickable URL. I mean, it's not a hyperlink. It's just text. The URL is just right there. You can't click on it. So it's not basically telling you to visit this website. If you need to visit the website, you can copy paste that URL from there. And this is usually a safe way of doing of opening links that you're not sure of. You just they're never hyperlinks. They're just texts on the body, and you just copy it and you paste it on your address bar in your browser. So you can always make sure that the phone number is real, and that's about it. Obviously, nothing fishy here. Sorry for the pun. Downy Savings. Do you remember we recently updated our online system to include multi-socket layer secure authentication? Again, this is trying to trick you into protecting your email, but that's what it's trying to manipulate in you. Please follow the link to start the security update immediately. It gives a link, update.downy savings login.cgi. There is no need to reply to this email. Your ticket code is etc. etc. We apologize for any inconvenience. What do you think? Why? Okay, very nice. Also, because you can't see, there's a little discrepancy here. As you can see, this is HTTPS, which is the hyperlink. This is just the hyperlink. This is just the text that they want you to see. It's not the link that you'll actually go to. But again, if you go here, it's not an HTTPS. It's a normal HTTP link. So whenever there's this kind of discrepancy, it always indicates that it is a phish. So the link is not cut and paste. Like I said, it's not a cut and paste. It's a direct clickable URL. Email was not addressed to you. Use a very nice logo to help you. I mean, to make you believe that it's real, but it's not. The use of technical terms such as this are used to scare you into acting. Hopefully, your bank doesn't do this. Like I said, when an email is trying to scare you into something or trying to make you believe that something bad will happen if you don't do this, usually indicates that it's a phish. And like I said, the URL, they don't match. The one below is HTTP, the one above is HTTPS. So Yahoo, we are unable to process your request, etc. Welcome, no name. URL, click not a clickable URL. Click here, which takes you to some weird looking website called leonvanblazen.com, and yeah, that's it. Definitely a phish. Welcome, no name. It seems someone wants to disclose financial or personal information by clicking here. Just say no if someone wants to disclose. Anyway, so again, the link, comma is out of place. Always, all these minor details. I mean, it may seem minor, but as far as punctuations go, spellings go, grammar goes, emails are usually spot on with these. There are never mistakes like these, even the tiniest ones. You'll never see these kind of mistakes on emails from all these big companies. And of course, the URL is not yahoo.com. It is leonvanblazen, whatever that is. So, okay. UPS bulletin. This is the second last snapshot. Attention, virus warning. We have become aware there is fraudulent email being sent that says it is coming from UPS and leads the reader to believe that a UPS shipment could not be delivered. The reader is advised to open an attachment reportedly containing a waybill for the shipment to be picked up. The email attachment contains a virus. It's basically trying to warn you of other phishing attacks. Doesn't ask you to do anything. Gives a link for customer service, and it just says thank you for your attention. Very polite. So even the mail too seems fine. It says here customer service at ups.com, the same as what it says there, and that's just an email address. There is no link. Yeah, it's just information. Brilliant, very nice. this is a good example of how to write a legitimate email that your customers understand and use. The email was not addressed to you, but it would have been better if they had done this, just to make it seem safe. But anyway, it's just information, so they don't really need to make you believe that this information is just for you. It's for everyone, so you don't need it. After reading this message, they don't ask you to do anything related to this email. Typically, a phisher would have had you click here or validate or check something. They provide an email link to contact them if you have better than a web link. Of course, sending emails way more safer than clicking some link that you don't know. Even the email below is the same as what they say, and it's at ups.com, which is their genuine domain. Snapshot number 9. I think this is the last one. Oops, sorry. I'm sorry. All right, you've done well pretty so far, so it's not like you wouldn't have been able to tell. Okay, dear member, we recently received notice from your credit card company that you filed a chargeback stating that you did not authorize the transaction below. Gives you some weird details, gives you a link which is clickable. Link below is same, but it redirects to bioprotection.net. Login.ebay-bioprotection.net. Of course, fish. You already know it. So, email was not addressed to you. PayPal will always use your real name. Fisher defines the problem. If you are a PayPal member, then you might think there is something wrong and you need to fix it. So it tries to make you believe that you need to fix something. Details are great at helping to convince you that this is real. PayPal will always put cut and paste links in their email. There will never be clickable URLs by companies like PayPal and all these online transaction companies. This is clickable, and the URL is not HTTPS. Of course, yes, big giveaway. It is not HTTPS. So, oh, there's one more. Okay. Dear John Doe, we have determined that you owe additional tax and other amounts, or both, for the tax year. Okay, very nice. Yes. A clickable link, no HTTPS, fake email copy of this paper, letter of deficiency. You should not receive such a notice via email, but instead through US mail. I mean, you should receive it by snail mail, as they say, not through email, something like this. So, brilliant. You learn pretty fast. Okay. Any questions? Anything at all? Anything? Yes. Yeah. Okay. You need a mic. You can take this.
Hello, sir. There is CERC, Center for Electronic Related Crime, managed by Parry for Laws. They especially deal in email related crimes. So why you think even in India there is National Informatics Center?
Right.
Why you think why such great institutions are failing to cover such crimes?
Look, now, as much as effort that they put in, there's only so much that they can do. Now, if tomorrow, if you receive an email which looks very much like what we saw, now of course, now, okay, I'm not taking credit, but of course now you'll be able to tell. But again, it's a much more advanced threat, phishing. Now, I'm sure you heard Microsoft's Twitter got hacked very recently. CNN's Twitter got hacked, and this was all done by the Syrian Electronic Army. They have some political agenda, but let's not get into that. So they're targeting all these American companies. So imagine it this way: if Microsoft and CNN can be hacked, there is no such thing as absolute security. You can't have a system that is 100% safe, foolproof. And if look at it this way: if Microsoft can get hacked, Microsoft Twitter or CNN's Twitter, then anything is attainable, anything is possible. There's only so much you can do, and I'll tell you how this happened. This happened by an email that a user received, and he was using this third-party app called Hootsuite for Twitter. So his password on Hootsuite was already saved on the system. Now, because of that phishing attack, Syrian Electronic Army got hold of his system. They compromised his system, and that's how they logged into the Twitter. using Hootsuite, and using that they said don't use Microsoft products, and you know they caused kind of a chaos. So as much as efforts that you can put in, like I said, humans will always be the weakest link. So there'll always be this margin of error that you will leave out because humans may click links and you know. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Any question at all? Yes. Hold on. Take the mic.
Sir, can a fish email have a URL like HTTPS or not?
Good question. Someone else asked me this question also. Now, HTTPS is a general indication that the URL is safe. What is HTTPS? It's deployment of SSL, right? Secure channel, HTTPS. Now, think about it this way. SSL is something that you buy. It's a certificate, right? So, an attacker is not going to invest that much money. I mean, usually he won't. You can assume that. But again, it's not 100% sure indication that it is safe. It's one of the strong indicators that if it's HTTPS, it's definitely safe. It's one of the strong ones. It's an indicator that you can rely on. But again, it doesn't always mean that it's a safe website.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Any other questions? Anything at all? Anything related to security or phishing or emails or social networking security or whatever you need to ask?
Recently, there was a question in India. Supreme Court raised the issue that all the officials, government officials, doesn't have a secure website to email. All the data are being catered by international people.
NSA, you mean?
Yeah, right. So, what is your take on that, sir?
Well, I have read a lot on this.
That means that people are using Gmail and very not a secure official.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat your question? What exactly are you? What exactly is your question?
I was asking that normal people, which they are using the email IDs, they are being generally hacked by the people, and they are suffering out of it. And recently, Supreme Court issued
Yes. They said that. Okay, yeah. That statement I think was only for government officials. That government officials should not use Yahoo and Gmail. Now again, Yahoo, Gmail. Where are the servers? The United States.
Yeah.
Now, if NSA issues an order, in fact, they don't even issue orders. They're that shameless. They'll just go hack into their systems and get all the data. They don't even do it legally. So, of course, our government is concerned. What our government says is that don't use Gmail or Yahoo or anything that's from the United States or any other international country that's not India. NIC is ours, as Sir just said before tea break. NIC is a secure mail server, but it's only for our government officials. It's not for citizens. My take on this would be that maybe someday, like China, we have our own mail server. I mean, NIC is open to public, and every Indian gets an email address at nic.in. Because that way we would eliminate all this Yahoo, Gmail clutter that it's all data that's going to United States, and it's data that can be used against you. You may think you're not a criminal. What could they possibly do with your data? But everything is being stored, believe it or not. So I would like that to happen maybe someday, like how China does it. China doesn't use Twitter, YouTube. They have their own social networking, and it's pretty effective because they're very anti-USA. So maybe someday, I don't know. Let's see, because that kind of capacity. Look at the population that we have. So to have email for everyone, it can get cumbersome. But yeah, that's my take.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Yes.
Morning, sir. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Sir, today's all the data is stored in clouds, most of the data, and that is not safe. From last 1.5 days, we are learning that this is cybersecurity is too much needed at present scenario, because there is so much risk of losing or leakage of our data, secure data. Our external devices are not safe. Is it good or bad to use most of the internet services? I mean, on a on a journal purpose. If I'm a student, I'm not know the all the securities and all. So is it like more better to use
it's something that can drive you crazy, believe me. It's
Yeah.
something that can make you very, because everything that you are doing on the internet is going somewhere and is being monitored. Of course, like you said, you're a student. What kind of data can you possibly have? You have assignments, you have projects. So yes, if it's not sensitive data, then it does seem harmless. But then it's up to you. Would you want your data somewhere that is being monitored by someone else? I wouldn't. I don't know. I have massive trust issues, so I wouldn't use anything that goes straight to another country, which can be monitored and everything that goes there. So it's up to you. Of course, if you're not dealing with any sensitive information, then yes, it's safe to use all your Dropbox services and your Google Drive and your all any of these cloud services. It's fine, you can. But if you're dealing with sensitive data, encryption is very much recommended. So I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? I saw the hand. Someone. Yes.
Hello, sir. Sir, in last few months, I have visited various trainings related to insurance or any other forms. They have a specific software so that after entering only name, they can get all the details of the person.
Okay.
Apart from that, they are having some softwares. There are online sites. From that, we can get a fake IP address.
Mhm.
So we know that the wound is in front of our eyes. Then why we are not able to put the ointment to that particular wound?
What particular wound are you talking about? In what sense?
We know that these are like cutting our roots. We know everything is fake. Softwares that are available to us, we are only entering the names and we are getting all the details.
Mhm.
Means if it means that we are faking a person.
Okay, it can be used that way. Yes. Okay.
Similarly, if we are having IP address,
Mhm.
there are various sites so that we can
Yes,
get
IPs can be spoofed. Yes.
fake ID addresses.
Yes.
Then we know that these are the wounds. Then why we are not able to put the ointment to that wounds?
No, I didn't get your question. I mean,
Means,
I get that you're saying that IPs can be spoofed and identities can be stolen. But what is your worry? What is it that you're
हमारे
afraid
पास
of?
जो ऑनलाइन साइट्स हैं उन सभी ऑनलाइन साइट्स के अकॉर्डिंग आईपी एड्रेस हम फेक आईपी एड्रेस जनरेट कर सकते हैं.
हाँ.
आई एम सेइंग दैट इज अ वाउंड. वो एक घाव है.
Okay.
वो अगर एक घाव है तो हम उस पे ऑइंटमेंट क्यों नहीं लगा सकते? हमें पता है कि वहां पे एक घाव है लेकिन हम वहां पे ऑइंटमेंट क्यों पुट नहीं कर सकते?
Would you like to answer this, sir?
See, it's fine. Am I audible?
No, sir. Take the mic.
See,
There is always this issue of we are trying to create a hype over security. Just turn some pages back and try to first of all understand whether this problem exists in real life or not. As to this girl's question, whether we should put the data online when there is so much of risk. It's like saying whether we should go on roads when there are accidents. He is saying IP can be spoofed. We have a wound, can we heal it? We have so many people who impersonate, who take exams in name of others. They are able to do it. Are you able to check that? No, because this is a cat and mouse race. I think that answers the question. If you cannot solve it in real life, or if you can solve it in real life, with the same capacity, you would be able to solve it in virtual life or not solve it in virtual life. It's the same.
Thank you, sir. Also, I mean, if you look at it from a very practical point of view, say I'll give you an example that you can relate to. Now, say someone is trying to hack into your Facebook. Now, of course, even companies are getting smarter. They have identified that these things happen, and they have put their own mechanism in place. So now, if you live in Delhi, say, and you log in from Delhi every day, you check your Facebook. Now, if someone from Goa, if someone somewhere else, a different IP, if it detects a different IP, it will directly send you an email on the registered email address that someone from a different location tried to log in into your account. So there are all these defense mechanisms that have been used for your IPs. But what you're saying is very generalized. Like sir said, it's not. I mean, there's not something that you can do for every problem that we have. But yes, companies are implementing security layers to prevent things like these from happening. Are you convinced? All right. Anyone else? No? Are we running short on time? Okay, okay. All right, I don't want questions anymore. All right, thank you. Sales pitch, shameless sales pitch. You can contact us. I work for this company called AKS IT. We deal with website security. We audit websites like sir was telling just before the tea break. We deal with all kinds of security. So feel free, since you're students, it's a field that you may be interested in. So the company is called AKS IT Services, and my name is Sajal Thomas. If any of you missed it, you can contact me on Twitter or Facebook or wherever. Just find me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So we have the first invited talk, and now I request the second speaker, Professor Rajiv Raman Singh, to start his talk on again the same topic, but I will take 2 minutes to say something about your questions. And we say that the human beings are the weakest link. I have to add to that. You know, we have a connection at home for internet. I am told that my connection is static. It means that one IP address is allocated to me. When my internet is not working, I call the person in the call center of the company. They say, sir, you follow my instructions, and you type another IP address which was not allocated to me, which is never told to me. How I can be secure? If I have a static connection at home, I am responsible for all messages from that address. But if, let us suppose, in a day, even by charging me for the static IP address, I am working with 100 IP addresses. What's the reason? We do not have the infrastructure, and we want to boast that we want to serve you in a very better way. I take another example, which is very much related to the security. You know that softwares are tested by following the black box approach, never by following the white box. So be sure the softwares are always having the bugs. So our technology is not foolproof. Our technology is a weak link. You have mobile phone in your pockets. In this country, about 15% mobile phones do not have the IMEI number. How you will know that who is calling you? How the lawmaking agencies will know that this is called from you? Again, what's the problem? That we do not have the infrastructure. We try to solve. We should not forget all those things. Recently, there was a news item from the Moscow. Typewriters are coming back to the government offices. The reason is very simple. The technology is very difficult to understand for everybody, so you have to devise your mechanism of the security, either with the typewriters or by allocating IMEI numbers, or by going by the white box approach rather than the black box approach. I leave it to you. So that also we have to keep in mind, that the technology is also a weak link. Okay, and read some books of the software engineering. even the recent or the earlier ones, they will tell you that still the technology is a weak link. With this, I request Professor, because his name is Rajiv Ranjan Singh, to start his talk. And I request you to please...
I'll try to be brief, yes sir. Okay, so hello again. The present topic is quantifying security. What I like to point out is, as an academic, this is very important, what Lord Kelvin said. When you can measure what you are speaking about and express it in numbers, you know something about it. But when you cannot measure it, when you cannot express it in numbers, your knowledge is of meager and unsatisfactory kind. It may be the beginning of knowledge, but you have scarcely in your thoughts advanced to the state of science. So if we are saying we are computer students, then it's fine. But if you say you are students of computer science, then you have to be able to quantify what you are talking about. Right? This is the data breach investigation report of 2012. This tells you how do breach occur and what are the commonalities in all of them. The most important thing is 97% of breaches were avoidable through simple or intermediate controls. Right? That means what? That means that we have been stupid. We have not taken even the simple measures or simple safeguards that we should have followed, and that has led to these hacks becoming successful. This is the latest definition of security. The classical definition is CIA, confidentiality, integrity and availability. But this Macomber cube talks in a three-dimensional way that security can also be in terms of transparency,